Her legs trembled, and she had an overwhelming urge to bolt out the door. Frightened, her voice shook as she said, "Eldest sister." At that moment, Ji Yunlan's expression changed. She suddenly revealed a doting smile that did not reach her eyes and said, "Of course I'm joking. You're my only dear little sister." When she said the words, "dear little sister," Ji Yunlan deliberately stressed each syllable. "Ji Yufei, in this lifetime, I've come to take your life. How could I possibly let you marry well?" She would make Ji Yufei and Lu Aiqing taste what it was like to be schemed to death, only to turn around and thank her for it. And her true younger sister, Linger. In this lifetime, once Linger returned with father from disaster relief, she would definitely compensate her properly. Seeing Ji Yunlan instantly put on the same indulgent expression as before, Ji Yufei inexplicably felt a chill run down her spine. Thinking of the purpose of her visit, she forced a pitiful smile, stomped her foot, and complained, Sister, you really scared Fair. Please don't joke like that again. Fea won't talk to you anymore. Hurry and give me the pills you promised earlier for treating Her Majesty the Empress." The pills to cure illness? Only then did Ji Yunlan remember. In her previous life, around this time, the Empress had fallen ill with a strange disease. None of the female physicians in the palace could do anything about it, so an imperial decree was issued to seek miracle doctors. Anyone confident could offer medicine, and tomorrow was the day the female physicians would enter the palace to present their remedies. From a young age, Ji Yunlan had been taught the Divine Physician Manual by her maternal grandfather. As long as she had the ingredients, she could even revive the dead and regenerate bones. However, her mother had ordered her to hide her abilities. Thus, although she knew how to save the Empress, she had remained silent. Instead, Ji Yufei learned of it and sweet-talked her into making the pills for her. 2 days later, when she entered the palace to present the medicine, she stunned everyone in one move and was personally conferred the title of First Female Physician under Heaven by His Majesty. In addition, she had previously taken Ji Yunlan's paintings, poetry, and musical talents to show off as her own, earning the title of First Talented Lady. With these titles, Ji Yufei became the most sought-after marriage prospect among all the noble families in the capital. So many aristocratic sons came to propose that the threshold of the minister's residence was nearly worn flat. And yet she, Ji Yunlan, the legitimate eldest daughter of the household, was branded ugly and mediocre, jealous and spiteful, so undesirable that she couldn't marry anyone. She was mocked for clinging desperately even to the violent, crippled Prince Xiao. In her previous life, every bit of Ji Yufei's fame had been given to her by Ji Yunlan. In this life, she would strip away every halo she had once bestowed, bit by bit. "Oh? You mean the pills? If you hadn't mentioned it, I almost forgot. I'll go get them for you now." "Wait a moment, little sister." Ji Yunlan walked into the inner room and quickly began fiddling with bottles and jars. About the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn later. Ji Yufei was growing impatient when Ji Yunlan finally emerged, holding a porcelain bottle filled with pills. Smiling, she said, "Fair, once Her Majesty takes these pills, she will definitely recover." Hearing this, Ji Yufei was thrilled. She rushed forward and almost snatched the bottle, gripping it tightly in her hand. With this medicine, the title of First Female Physician would certainly be hers. Noticing Ji Yunlan's expression change, Ji Yufei finally realized her impropriety and awkwardly explained. "Eldest sister, Fair was just too worried about Her Majesty's condition." Ji Yunlan's eyes were icy cold, but she smiled and said gently, "It's fine. I understand. Tomorrow, Fair will surely stand out above the rest." Watching Ji Yufei hurry away with the pills, Ji Yunlan's face filled with ruthless resolve. "Ji Yufei, you still want to use me to build your reputation? Too bad, tomorrow you'll taste what it's like to fall into the abyss." Early the next morning, the maids in Ji Yufei's courtyard began carefully dressing her up, determined to make her the most dazzling presence once she entered the palace. Inside the carriage bound for the palace, beautifully dressed and radiant, Ji Yufei cast a faintly disdainful glance at Ji Yunlan. Ji Yunlan wore no makeup and was dressed in a plain white brocade gown. The hideous scar covering half her face made her look unbearably ugly. Seeing this filled Ji Yufei with smug satisfaction. Putting on a fake expression of concern, she asked, "Sister, this medicine, there won't be any problems, right?" Fair is a little scared. Ji Yunlan swept her with a cool glance and said in an eerie tone, "Could it be that Fair doesn't trust me?" Ji Yufei stiffened under her gaze and hurriedly shook her head, saying that wasn't the case. Yet inwardly, she was thinking, once this offering succeeds, my reputation will be unshakable. I'll directly force this ugly monster to hand over the Divine Physician Manual. Then I won't need to keep pretending with Ji Yunlan anymore. After entering the palace maids led them toward the grand hall. Most of the physicians and female doctors had already arrived, along with many officials' wives. After all, many of these physicians had been recommended by officials. If anything went wrong, those officials would bear responsibility. Ji Yunlan glanced around and suddenly noticed that seated below the dragon throne was Xiao Lihan. The moment she looked over, she collided straight into his deep, captivating eyes, as though they were trying to pull her soul in. Those eyes were far too intense. Thinking of what had happened the day before, Ji Yunlan felt flustered and quickly looked away. A dull ache rose in her heart. She told herself she could no longer care about Xiao Lihan. This was what was best for him. When the emperor ordered the empress to be carried to the phoenix seat, her face dark and bruised, everyone was shocked. It had only been a month since they last saw her, yet she now looked as though she could die at any moment. Many physicians immediately shook their heads, indicating they were powerless. Ji Yufei was startled as well. She looked toward Ji Yunlan, silently asking whether the pill would truly work. Ji Yunlan simply smiled and nodded, encouraging her not to worry. The emperor swept his gaze across the physicians in the hall, his expression heavy as he asked, "Is there any physician who has the confidence to step forward and try?" The physicians exchanged looks, none daring to move. With such a complexion, the empress was clearly on the brink of death. Medicine would be useless. Her body was far too weak. Even if there were medicine, she wouldn't be able to withstand its potency. Death was inevitable. "I am willing to try." A soft, gentle voice rang out. It was Ji Yufei. She stepped forward, her face full of confidence. She trusted Ji Yunlan's abilities. If Ji Yunlan said it would work, then it certainly would. Seeing everyone in the hall stare at her in astonishment, Ji Yufei felt immensely pleased. She loved this feeling of being the center of attention. Thinking that she would cure the empress, whom no one else dared to treat, she was certain she would become famous throughout the capital. Seeing her confidence, the emperor's expression softened slightly. He nodded and said, "So you're the prodigy child physician of Minister Ji's household. Step forward." The others immediately began whispering among themselves. So she's Ji Yufei, the prodigy who could cure illnesses at 10 years old? That's right. Back then, she accidentally cured Consort Hui, which led to the engagement with Prince Xiao, Consort Hui's son. But I heard the legitimate eldest daughter snatched the marriage, insisting on marrying Prince Xiao herself. TSK, the two sisters are worlds apart, one gentle and wise, the other unruly and willful, one breathtakingly beautiful, the other unbearably ugly. Truly heaven and earth. As Ji Yufei walked up the steps, hearing these words filled her with indescribable delight. Exactly. Ji Yunlan deserves to be trampled underfoot. After today, she would make sure everyone remembered only her. Ji Yufei stepped forward and slowly curtsied. Pretending to examine the pulse, she frowned at first, then relaxed her brows after a moment and said, "Reporting to your majesty, Her Majesty's strange illness is indeed caused by a rare poison, which has led to the decline of her vital organs. The antidote I brought today can save Her Majesty's life." The crowd was even more astonished. Although everyone could tell the Empress had been poisoned, no one knew what poison it was, yet Ji Yufei had even produced an antidote. Even the emperor hadn't expected a young girl to be so capable. He immediately ordered, "Good. Administer it to the empress at once." A palace maid took the pill and fed it to the empress. The hall fell deathly silent. Everyone held their breath. All eyes were fixed on the empress as she swallowed the medicine. Not long after, she slowly opened her eyes, and her complexion visibly improved. It was nothing short of miraculous. The crowd was stunned. Ji Yufei was overjoyed. It worked, really worked. That ugly Ji Yunlan truly had some skill. The emperor was extremely satisfied and laughed heartily. Worthy of the title of prodigy physician. Your medical skills have improved greatly over the years. This title of first female physician under heaven. Hearing this, Ji Yufei's face flushed bright red with excitement. The title was hers. Your Majesty. Her Majesty's nose is bleeding. Suddenly, a panicked cry rang out. Everyone focused their gaze, and with a pft, the empress not only began bleeding from her nose, but also spat out a mouthful of blood, splashing it directly onto Ji Yufei standing before her. Seeing the filthy blood on her clothes, Ji Yufei nearly screamed. The empress then vomited clumps of black blood again and again. It was horrifying to behold. My heavens, the empress has vomited so much blood. Can she still survive? I told you. Her body couldn't withstand the medicinal potency. Look now, there's no saving her. The emperor roared furiously. Ji Yufei, what is the meaning of this? Ji Yufei's face turned deathly pale. Terrified by the emperor's fury, she collapsed to her knees, shaking her head frantically as she stared at the empress's bluish face in horror. The imperial physician hurried to check the pulse, but his expression changed drastically. Stammering, he said, "Why, Your Majesty, the empress is beyond saving." What? How could this happen? Ji Yufei, what crime should you be charged with? If the empress dies, I will have you buried with her. At the words buried with her, Ji Yufei began trembling violently. She instinctively looked toward Ji Yunlan and saw her wearing an anxious expression, as if she wanted to say something. But Ji Yufei suddenly pointed at Ji Yunlan and shouted, "Your Majesty, it was her. It was Ji Yunlan. She gave me the pill. It has nothing to do with me, truly nothing. She wanted to kill both me and Her Majesty the Empress. It was her.